Twice you set out from nearly the same place and did nearly the same things, as close to the same as you could manage, and the 2 times ended nowhere near each other. You went looking for the thing that split them, some choice that must have mattered, and found nothing large enough to blame. It should not work that way. A small difference at the start, you assume, makes only a small difference at the end. Nudge a thing a little, and it lands a little off, no more. The little difference fades, washed out by everything larger around it, and the ending comes out much the same. Usually it does. So go back and measure the difference you began with. It is almost nothing, far too slight to have set that ending by itself, and yet the 2 endings are worlds apart. A small start did not make a small finish, and it did not fade. Whatever pulled the 2 so far apart, it was not the size of the difference. It was what the system did with it, step after step. To see what it did, build it in the open. Take one fixed rule, a rule that reads where the system is now and sets where it goes next, applied the same way at every step. Run it from one starting point and watch the path it traces. Then run a second copy of the very same rule, from a start just a hair away, too close to tell apart by eye. Keep one quiet measure between them, the gap from the one path to the other. Begin with a rule that behaves itself. Set the 2 going, a hair apart, and watch. They move together, side by side, the small gap between them no wider than it began, often closing. Where one goes, the other goes too, and the 2 come to rest in the same place. The little difference you started with washed out, just as you expected. Most rules are like this, and with them the intuition holds. A small start, a small finish. Now keep everything the same but the rule, and set 2 paths going again from a hair apart. For a while they look no different from before, moving together, the gap between them small and quiet. Then the gap stops holding still. It widens, a little, then a little more. The 2 paths, born almost on top of one another, begin to pull apart. Let it run on and watch the gap. It does not grow by adding a little each step. It grows by doubling, small, then twice that, then twice again, slow to start, and then all at once too wide to ignore. The 2 paths that began too close to tell apart are now headed for opposite ends of everything the system can reach. The same hair's difference is still the only difference there is. The rule has been making more of it the whole time. Step back and watch one thing, the gap between the 2 paths, growing. But notice what kind of thing it is. You could not have read it at the start, the way you might read a level or a load. At the start, there was nothing to see. The 2 were identical to any measure you could make. The gap only shows itself as the paths run, after the fact, never before. The difference that set it was always there, and always too small to find. Now hold the 2 runs together. It is the same rule driving both, the same law applied the same way at every step. Only one thing tells them apart, and it is the start. 2 starting points so close that no measurement could ever separate them, a difference far too small to see. For a long stretch, the 2 paths lie on top of each other, moving as one, exactly as you would expect of so small a difference. Then the gap opens. It widens and doubles again, and the 2 paths peel away from one another until one has gone one way and the other has gone somewhere else entirely, worlds apart. The same rule, the same kind of start, and at the end, 2 outcomes with nothing in common. Nothing large chose between them. No difference you could ever have measured chose between them. The unseeable difference at the start did, because the rule made everything of it. Watch what the rule does when you run it again. From the exact same start, the very same numbers, it traces the exact same path it traced before, point for point, every time. Run it 1,000 times, and 1,000 times it agrees. The system follows its rule and nothing else. Then move the start by a hair and run it again, and it gives a different ending, but the same different ending every time. Same start, same path, always. A hair off, a different path, and that one always too. None of this is chance, and none of it is random. The rule is fixed, and it reproduces. The one thing you cannot do is know the start finely enough to say, ahead of time, which path you are already on. Test it 2 ways. Take away that particular difference and start them apart in some other tiny way instead. The paths pull apart all the same. It was never that one difference. Any difference too small to see would have grown the same way. The pulling apart belongs to the rule, not the nudge. Then try to undo it. Once the two paths have parted, nudge one to bring it back, and it will not come. To close the gap, you would have had to match the start to a fineness you never had. What has grown apart stays apart. Pull the whole picture together. One fixed rule, two starts a hair apart, and the rule carrying them, step by step, from almost the same place to opposite ends of all it can reach. You have been watching one thing the whole time. Nearby starts driven steadily apart by the system's own rule, until a difference too small to see has become the whole of the outcome. That driving apart of paths that began together is what we will call divergence. It is no large cause and no stroke of luck, only a small difference the rule refused to let fade. Hold the two ways of watching side by side. Watch only the start, and you learn nothing that matters. The two beginnings are identical to anything you can measure, and identical beginnings tell you nothing about which ending each will reach. Watch the gap between the paths as they run, and you learn the whole story of how far apart they end. But that knowing only ever arrives as it happens, never before it. The start keeps its secret from any measurement. The running paths give it up, one step too late to have warned you. Stay with the difference at the start, at the moment the two paths set out. It is vanishingly small as you care to make it, with nothing about it that points to two outcomes worlds apart. And that is the whole of it. The thing that decided everything was a difference you could never have seen. There was no large cause to find, because the size of the ending was never in the difference. Nothing here was chance, no luck, no roll of the dice thrown from outside. The difference was small, and the rule, lawful and the same at every step, made it everything. The difference stayed tiny. The divergence did not. Carry this back to where you began. A difference too small to measure is no longer a thing to wave away as too small to matter. On its own, it is almost nothing, but you no longer get to judge it on its own. Whether it fades or grows, to decide everything is not written in the difference, but in the rule that carries it. So you stop sizing up the nudge, which tells you little, and start asking what the system will do with it, step after step. And the question quietly changes. Not, was that difference too small to matter, but whether this is a system that lets small differences grow, and how far ahead you can trust it before the gap runs away. You are not learning that the world is chance, or that nothing can be known. The system is lawful, and the same start always gives the same path. Nor are you learning that you could predict it if only you measured better. No fineness you can reach survives the doubling for long. Most rules are not like this, letting a small difference fade. What you learn to read is whether a rule makes more of a small difference or less, and how soon that decides the end. Let the whole picture stand. The one fixed rule, applied the same at every step. The two starts a hair apart, too close to tell apart by any measure. The well-behaved run, where the small difference washes out and the paths stay together, beside the run where the gap doubles and doubles until the two ends share nothing. A lawful, unchanging rule, carrying a difference no one could see into an outcome no one could miss. The difference was unseeable. The system made it everything. A difference too small to see can decide everything, not by being large, but by the way a system makes more of it over time. Yet other systems hold still for years, giving no sign, while underneath they drift closer to giving way. And how close they already stand to that point is the next thing worth learning to see.